Hi guys, we are going to talk to Jessica McCabe, and she is with Screen It First, and she has a fabulous website where parents can share with other parents objective content that they can use to personally decide if that book is good for their child or not. And I really love that it's the problem with other sites that I've found is that it says, oh, yeah, this isn't good for kids, or this is good for kids, but you don't have the sentences, the paragraph, the page number to decide for your kid and read it yourself what is actually going to be best for them. So, Jessica, how long ago did you start this, and why did you start it?
We started probably about 4 years ago, and we started out slow because it's all self-funded, and we did what we could on it and built it as we could afford to. And the reason we built this site was, first off, I have 6 children, and I started out pre-reading books for them, and it was enjoyable. It was fun. I loved to read. I enjoyed um, keeping up with what they were reading and being able to share great books with them. But as they got older, it became a lot more and too much to keep up with. And so I started looking at reviews like Amazon reviews, Goodread reviews, Common Sense Media, trying to filter out books, just cut them off the list right from the start if it had content that I didn't appreciate. Well, I started to notice, it really dawned on me when I was looking at an Amazon review, and there was a trans character in the book, and the people who wrote the reviews, they were trying to skirt around the issue, trying to alert parents without outright saying what was in the book. And so they were kind of uh, what it was they didn't want their name attached to a review because they didn't want probably to affect their friendships, their jobs, things like that when you put your name on a review. And so some people are willing to be outright um, honest with their political views or their moral views, but some people they don't want the backlash from it. And so um, I thought it would be great to have a crowdsourced platform that's anonymous, that people can just post on and not have their name attached. They don't have to have a login, and there's no way to track them. But then as I thought about that, I thought about the reviews that say that are a little more subjective. So if you just have to weed through a bunch of reviews and say one person says there's too much violence, then I think, well, how much is too much? Is their line the same as my line? And so I thought, well, it would be nice to have a more objective understanding of what's in the book. And that's what brought us to taking snapshots of what is actually in the book. So there's no way to misinterpret it. The parent gets to read the exact wording in the book themselves, and they get to decide if that's over the line for their family or if they're okay with it.
Yeah, I love that part of it. I was going through today, so at Rated Books, we've started taking some of your excerpts and creating reports from them. And I love that you categorize them and say, well, this is violence, this is something about death, this is language, and you'll show those excerpts and already categorize. So a parent may not care about one thing, they might care about another, and they can decide which ones to review. Um, the other thing that I think is smart about your site, which has been a concern of mine at Rated Books, is that you can go find all the 5 out of 5s, and it's like, okay, everybody, you want to read all the most explicit things, and even though we have
Oh,
18 plus on our page, it's still very concerning to me that um, they can go and read all of that there, but you don't allow that on your site. And so how do parents know which books to stay away from. Like what if they go to your site, and we'll show them in a second. If they go to your site, how do you recommend that they use it?
Right. So, the way you would use our site is you would see a book, say from the library or that your child is reading, and you just search for that book itself. And you find the book on there, and if it's screened, you could click on the book and see the screens. We purposely left off the ability to search books based off of bad content, just so who's somebody can't just search for all, say, sexual content, and then they have a whole list of books that have some really explicit sexual content, and it's like their go-to list, if you will, for books to read. So instead, this is more geared towards the average parent who wants to check out if this book that their child is reading has any sensitive content, or preferably before the child is reading it. Because a lot of times the child even might not want to be exposed to some of the sensitive content, but they just don't know until they're halfway through the book that the book has that. And it's kind of a check to just allow parents to just rule out a book before they even start reading it.
Yeah, that's really nice. I'm going to take people through so that they can see what we're talking about here. So you can see here is the Screen It First website. And I can't believe that you already have over 6,000 books screened. That is amazing to me because how many people are doing this? How many reports do you get a day to get 6,000 screened books in only 4 years?
Yeah, we do have a couple workhorses, it seems, people who are willing to they read a lot and they're willing to alert other parents so that those parents don't get fooled by books. So, yeah, it has been pretty successful as far as people screening books. Because I mean, this wouldn't work if it were just me and my husband. Like we can't plow through that many books ourselves. And so that's the whole point of a crowdsourced. So anybody can hop on there, throw a few snapshots on. They don't even have to screen an entire book. If they read a quarter of the way through and found a deal breaker, they just take a picture of it, throw it on our site, and then other people at least have the heads up.
So, have you found that some people are like trolling it and they'll post stuff that isn't really in the book? How do you verify that it's actually in there?
Yeah, so we have had a few trolls, very little, surprisingly, but we've had some content. And what I do is before I approve a screen, I go ahead and look at the content, and I look at the page and I see if that page can accurately be put into the category that the person says it's in. And I kind of get a good gauge, like if it's a book I've never heard of, I read the content, I kind of look at what character is there. And then what I do is I look at the other reviews and make sure the characters line up. So you kind of get a good gauge on if that actually is in the book, and then if the content is appropriate for that screened spot.
So you're the gatekeeper. So all these people put it in, and then before it goes on your website, you ensure that the category matches, that the reviews match the plot and the characters so that it is actually a review.
Right, right.
That's really
And
awesome.
the only thing, we are not gatekeepers as far as if you screen something that's violent, and I don't think it's a big deal, I don't think it's that violent, I still will approve it, because if somebody else thinks that's too violent, then it goes on there. So as long as the content could accurately be put in a certain category or even the miscellaneous category, um, then it's approved.
So what's funny about this is like they're like, "Oh, free speech, you're banning free speech." And And it's funny because it's like actually we're permitting it by allowing other people's opinions to be presented, because I'm going through some of these because Rated Books is doing I think we have three of yours that we're putting into our format this month. And so we're taking all those screenshots. I'll just show you what we're doing. So these are all of the excerpts with your Screen It First category here that will be put into ours. And some of them, I think, oh, I wouldn't even notice that, or that wouldn't bother me. And so I'm wondering if we're going to include it just because there's so many for this book. And but I like that if somebody decided that this is something that their child, they wouldn't want to show them, or they'd want to explain it first, or they'd want to read it with them, or have a conversation on that topic before they read it. There's so many different approaches. It's not that you're not going to read it, it's that you're going to read it with more wisdom and understanding to help your child see what understand the world better with you as a guide, because there are some really heavy things in there that parents can help them walk through. And that's the main purpose of parents. How do you walk through life, finding the most joy, understanding the sorrow, understanding the pain, and putting the expert title back onto the parent. And this allows them to do that and to decide what it is that is not okay with their kids. I remember you telling me there was this one book and it didn't seem to have anything negative in it, but your child, and maybe I'm making this up, had just had a death in the family or something. Um,
Right.
what was the book?
I'm not sure which one I said to you, but yes, when you have just had a death in the family and you know that there's a death in a book, then you get to sit and discuss it with them and be part of their life and their reading journey. And you just kind of get a heads up. I mean, there are so many of my favorite books that have a lot of screens on them, but it gives you an option to discuss things with your child. Like you said, be part of their life and be able to guide them and discuss these issues before they come up in the book or during the reading.
Yeah, it's like an English class. What you expect, you have this big discussion, but it's so much more impactful because the parent can discuss their values, their view on life. It's not just all this mix of things trying to make sense of it, but putting it together. I think reading with your child is one of the best ways you can parent. And this way you can parent more responsibly. So I'm just going to share again the screen. So another thing on here that I'm really excited about is the curated good books, Mud Hen Mama. And uh, I encourage people to go on here. We don't want to spend time on that right now, but to go on here and see what they have and see the different links, because there are so many resources we can use. Okay, so let's take a look at one of these books. Cursor's Fury is the one that we're doing a rated books report on right now. Okay, so now we're going to click on it. And right here we have the stop parental discretion, all ages. Now this isn't necessarily a rating. You have stop, you have caution, and then you said good books, but it can be used as a gauge. And then we look up here and you can view all the snapshots. There are 16 for violence and death. There are 8 foul language, which is really good for an adult book of 500 pages. And I looked at that and it wasn't like I don't think they had the F word in here. And so, but I believe this is an adult book. And then 4 instances of sexual content. And just so you can see how it's done, this is where you put this on. So if you're taking it, who puts the box on? Do you put the box on, or is the anonymous reader putting the box on?
That the anonymous reader is. So the reader takes a snapshot of the book, and then a box appears, and you place the box in the spot you want to highlight.
Okay, awesome. And then I like that here we have the page number up here. And then sometimes I don't see it in this one, but in the Agatha Christie book, because I was trying to compare it to see what to expect.
Uh,
I'm going to go to the Agatha Christie book really fast because I was like, I read Agatha Christie and I don't remember sexual content, but there was sexual content underneath there. And I think in order to really disfruta de, uh, to benefit from our, gosh, my brain went weird. To benefit from our um, tools, we have to understand them and how to use them and where they work and where they don't. And so the sexual content here isn't the explicit stuff that we have today. But I like
right.
that the reader put this in and they have a little note about what was concerning to that reader. Husband flirts with another woman. Rumor has it that she has broken up many homes. So right away you have an alert. Now, did you put this in or did the reader put this in?
No, the reader put it in.
Oh, okay.
So the reader has the option to, they take a snapshot, they highlight the section that they want to highlight, and then they put the page number if they have a page number, and then they have the option to put context. So that is the reader doing the context there.
Yeah, I really like that. And I'm grateful for all of these readers. And so for you, in order for you to do 6,000 of these in 4 years, 365 times four, whatever, you're doing multiple a day. How many of these do you do a day?
Um, I probably go on to the site 3 times a day or more and approve
Mhm.
screens. So I wouldn't know how many, but I do on my normal breaks throughout the day, I go ahead and check and verify and then approve them. So it's it's pretty intense on my end to make sure I keep up with the readers. But that's how it would work. This is a tool that we're all saving time by being able to use each other's work instead of every parent reading all the books that their child is reading all by themselves, and then their neighbor is reading some of the same books. It's saving time, allowing us to uh, profit off of each other's work and really get the word out there too, because some people have no idea the type of explicit content that's showing up in our kids' books nowadays. Whereas I don't think it used to be so bad, at least not with kids' books. And also it's just a useful tool even for the people who stay away from the really explicit content. They want to know what if there are deal breakers, even more minor deal breakers for them.
Right. And I've been trying to figure out there's so many books and there are different sites, there's and different lists available, and how do we consolidate and provide it to parents, so that as they're checking out, because we want parents to read as many books with their kids as possible, and so here's the superpower puppies. I wouldn't know to so there's dark content, LGBTQIA in the superpower puppies. And let's just take a look at this and see. Wait, I want to read this. I really like what you wrote down here before every child is unique and maturity develops at a different pace for each one, meaning a one size fits all age rating on books just doesn't cut it. I totally agree with this. I believe that parents should be looking at it for each one of their child. So each one of their children. So let's take a look at this puppy thing. And okay, so they are not passing side characters. They're a large part of the story. They're two dads. So let's see. And this doesn't mean you stay away from the book, right? Maybe parents,
Right,
let's talk about this, like how does
right.
this fit into our,
Right. If you're okay with this content and you would like to discuss it with your child and read it with your child, then that's fine. You use it in the way that it helps your family. But if it's a deal breaker for your family, then you're not even going to allow them to read it.
Right, right. And so you get to decide as a parent. And I think these are the only things, right? Let's see. But you can go through and find out in this book, and as a librarian too, um, how do you see librarians using your website if you do see that, envision it?
Um, I think it's an excellent tool for libraries to get on board because we have this problem nowadays in libraries where some people are fighting to take explicit content out of the libraries, or they want to put it only in the adult section, or just that battle. And I agree that we don't have rated X movies at the library. And so we probably shouldn't have rated X books either. But also, it's hard because you don't want libraries to be too much of a gatekeeper because then they might start keeping out content that you want in the library. So maybe they'll start being gatekeepers towards religion and not allowing some religious books in the library, things like that. So if they would get on board with just, we are illuminating what is in the book, we're demystifying it so that the reader knows if they want to tackle that book or not. And so it's not really telling people, you can't read this, but instead it's telling them, okay, I'll show you what's in the book then. And you decide for yourself if it's appropriate for your family. So I really think that librarians on both sides of the aisle, no matter what your politics are, no matter what your moral compass is, it would be a useful tool and something that they could get on board with.
I agree. It's about transparency. I believe that decades ago, we had more of a shared value set, the populace as a whole, and we shared values. And it seems like the shared values were very divergent. And we believe in this. Some people believe in this. And it's difficult to govern a people who have such a divergent set of values. Like the laws are based upon the values that we have, and it's a reflection how it runs. It's a reflection of what the people, the morality of the people as well. And so, because we're serving such a divergent morality, that transparency is the key to liberty, in my opinion. And so, so I think that we really need to have this because, like you said, they could say, hey, this is too religious. This is believing in a God that da 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 da. We're going to take this out. We know that we have to protect people's liberties to protect our own. Um, but on the other hand, um, the transparency to choose. If you do not know what it is, you cannot choose. And so we really, really need that now, especially when there is not a moral code being, um, we haven't seen a moral code reflected in the choices in libraries because of the explicit content. They're justifying it. And so with the absence of morality, the patrons have to be more selective because the librarians are no longer selecting based on a moral code. And um, so I'll get off my soapbox. So says need to be screened right here. How do you choose what needs to be screened? Who decides what is on this list?
Okay, so the books on the need to be screened list, and if you scroll down a tiny bit, you could see more, and it'll give you the full list of books that were requested. And it's very large right now because anybody can request a book to be screened, and it goes on this list. You just click on the book and say, I want this screened, and it goes on the list. So any of the readers at all can look at that list and say, oh, somebody else wants to know what is in this book. And if you happen to know what's in the book, then you could go on it and screen the book kind of for somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I said, a crowdsourced call to action that your neighbor or somebody is trying to protect their child and wants to know what's in this book. And if you have read it before, then you could go on and screen that book. But also, the user can screen any book they want. They could go on the site and search any book that they're reading right at the moment. So, for example, every single chapter book that I read to my children at bedtime, we go through a chapter book um, at bedtime, and I am always screening it. No matter what, I just screen that one, whether or not people requested that book or not. Um, I just throw it up on there. But then as I have free time, I go ahead on this requested book list and try and pick one that I could screen the whole thing so that somebody can see. Because obviously somebody is wanting to know what is in that book.
Is there anything else that you want to tell people about it? I think um we've covered your service. Your husband, you said he built it. He's the tech guy.
Yeah, so I had the problem and the idea, and my husband has built this, and we have also paid a little bit for a little bit of the more intense parts. So my husband and a coworker that he pays have built the site, the entire thing. So he is my tech support because I'm a little bit technologically impaired. But I am the reader. So
Mm,
I know a lot about books and I love books and I read books a lot.
yeah. Yeah, that's a gift that you're giving to all of us. And so thank you so much for, and your husband too, thank him for building it. It's a beautiful site. It's a great concept, 6,000 titles. And so I hope that everybody will go on and make good use of it, contribute to it, add the books they want, and most of all, to enjoy reading with their kids. So thank you,
Well, thank you,
Jessica.
Brooke.
You're welcome.